Hello and welcome to Stylish Chats with Creatives. Today on the podcast, I've got Richard Harvey, who is a hair and makeup artist, and we first met in an agency in the south of Manchester. Hello, Rich. How are you doing?
I'm really well. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. Yeah, good. Not seen you for a long time.
I know
A few
it's nice
months anyway.
having this little gossip, the 10-minute gossip we had first. I feel like we put a lot of things to bed and
Yeah, we put the world to rights before we started recording.
no, it's good having a good old natter, just like, we're at the tea station.
Yeah, that's it. What have you been up to? Have you been busy?
Well, I've been in Thailand for my husband's 40th and it was
Oh,
amazing. Have you ever been?
lush. No, I've never been. It's on our hit list, but we've never been.
The problem is there's a million islands. Anyone you speak to always says, "Oh, the island I went to 10 years ago, that's where you need to go." And everyone's like, "You must go to this island or that island," and you get torn so many ways. So we just did our research. There's a lot of islands where it's very young and it's a bit like 18 to, that big.
The 1830 club.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we just found this beautiful island called Kokood, and it's like the fourth biggest island in Thailand. It's near Cambodia, and it's like 70% jungle, and it's just got one little road along the east coast with beach resorts. And we just had a moped, stayed in a hut on a beach. The food, the people, it was just. And then we had the last 4 days in Bangkok, and we celebrated my husband's birthday there, and we did a temple in the morning. We got a hotel with a pool up on the roof so we could chill, and then we went out for dinner. So it was just beautiful. But I'm slowly getting back into reality.
Yeah, it sounds dreamy, to be honest. I'm very jealous.
Nice. Well, I start my work from tomorrow, so this is when reality's going to hit.
Yeah, that 6:30 alarm, you're going to be like, no.
Totally.
Oh, that sounds so dreamy, though. We haven't done a big holiday like that in years, but it just sounds so nice.
Well, my husband, we just lost a house. We lost 3 houses in a row. And this one we spent all the money on, it was just, we were like so frustrating. And I turned 40 and he just said, right, we're going to Goa. Because I've always done yoga. So a lot of people, I've always loved, everyone's been to like India and done a course or something. So he just took me to Goa out of the blue. And I always said to him, although I couldn't keep it a surprise like he did, I was like, I'm going to do the same for when you're 40. Although we've both decided that for when we're 50, or we'll do something, but maybe not as high pressure as paying because I paid for the flights as the present, so maybe not quite as high pressure, but it was amazing.
Oh, it sounds lush. Honestly, it sounds really lush. Oh, I'm so jealous. I've been stuck in with the sideways 70-mile-an-hour winds.
It's been cold today, hasn't it? It's kind of pretty nice and sunny, but it really dropped and was a bit chilly.
Yeah, it really was. It's not been like the wind has destroyed our garden. Like the mini greenhouse has gone flying. Oh God, everything.
Your
just
dog
went.
was like,
yeah, she's like, what? I'm not going outside. Oh dear. So I best we get to the crux of the podcast really, and ask how you got into your hair and makeup role.
Okay, well, this is kind of a sidestep story, and I didn't just sidestep, but I sidestepped and sidestepped and sidestepped. So basically,
like a little crab.
I was always creative. I wasn't very academic, particularly. I worked hard, but never quite got the same results as my academic brother that was older. But I was always I was destined to be a chef or a hairdresser, but my parents are quite religious, and I think at that time, I think boys should do boys' jobs. So my dad didn't really like the idea of a boy being a hairdresser. So, and I did a course in cookery, but it was all to do with like temperatures that germs breed, etc. And I love to cook still, so and it still is. So I ended up doing this art course it was like a step up to go to university, But from that, I ended up being a window dresser because I was always super creative. And I loved doing hair, loved doing makeup. My mum was an Avon lady and in the
Oh,
80s.
yeah.
And she had this little kit. And I was always that paper mache on the table. But as soon as this makeup came into the house, I was like super fascinated. So that was like my interest. But then when I ended up being a window dresser, I did the course, loved the course, started working there, but I really hated working in this really tired environment of this department store. And these people that had been there for like 20 years, and it was just like a real toxic environment. I was 18, I was really excitable and energetic, and they were all like, stop being keen, you know. so
Yeah, yeah.
but the great thing was all the windows were around the perfumery.
Oh, cool.
And then I made friends with all the girls that worked on the perfumery, and then they said to me, "Oh, you know what? Come down after the shop closes and come and do my makeup, and we'll go on a night out." So I started doing this, and all that love started coming back of all this makeup and things. And then one day, this lady said to me, "Come and meet me on your lunch. I've got a job for you in Manchester because." I was in Liverpool at the time, and they were like, they're not quite ready for boys on the perfumery counters, but I've got a job for you in Manchester. So I went and met her, and then I started working for Clinique. And then I was the boy that would stand in the shopping centre with like a little microphone, and I'd do like makeup demonstrations and train people. And I was kind of set to go through like to be becoming a trainer for Lancome towards the end. I went for Clinique and went through a few different companies. And then it kind of just got to the point where my ex at the time was just like, Richard, just think about going freelance. He worked in television and he had some friends who did red carpets, and I was doing their makeup, but I didn't do hair at the time, other than the odd braid that I learned from my sisters. Back in the day. So my ex was like, right, go and retrain. So I started doing some hair courses, and then I just took the bullet. So by that time, I was about 26. By the time I actually left my training job for Lancome and became freelance. So that was it. So lots of sidestepping. But I think nothing was wrong. You know, the design course and understanding colours and shapes. And I do think you don't, in the creative industry, you don't need to have the degree. And I know a lot of people who have had the degree and they've learned a lot of processes. And I feel like it's all about the flair, isn't it? And you know, following a brief, and you know, like so it was really good. But I enjoyed my sidestepping, and sometimes I look and I think I understand colour and shapes and design of things because of it. So it's always good to evolve.
Yeah, I think it sounds like you kind of naturally migrated over that way, really.
Yeah.
Like, and I think you're right. I think the more you understand about shape, composition, you know, fabric to a certain extent, I guess, as well, because then you've got textures and, you know, I think it's a whole rounded thing. And I'm in agreement with you about the degree thing as well. I never had a degree, so I did college and then dropped out of the interim course in between college and uni. And I have never felt like I've needed a degree. But then there's some people I think who think, oh, actually, I need it, because they're kind of pushed into, it's almost like set that we go to college, go to uni, get the job of our dreams, which I don't think happens that often.
No.
I think you're very lucky if you go to uni and then you get the job of your dreams.
Totally. Well, I think when I was young, there was no makeup artist wasn't a thing, and it was looked down on a bit. I mean, people weren't even having their makeup done for weddings. You know, people would just go to hairdressers, and the mum would put some blue eyeshadow on or something. So I feel like times have changed, and now there's so many courses where before it just wasn't an option, really. And I think I'm lucky, because if I would have been allowed to have done a course, I would have just been a hairdresser. So I feel like the way I learned it backwards, I actually ended up being able to be a hair and makeup artist and work in fashion, where I think earlier on I would have just ended up working in a salon, which I would have loved, but I love makeup. And I also feel that sometimes if you're an accountant, you go to college. There's a process. You learn the process. You need to be able
Hmm.
to do it like that. But with hair and makeup, it's not like that. If you gave the same brief to me and another makeup artist, would use totally different products. Would use some cream products with different brushes, different
Yeah.
tongs, different totally different products to get the same look. And I feel
Yeah.
like it's something creative, isn't it? I mean, I'm very visual. If I look at a model, I kind of just see the end picture, but I know exactly the products I'm going to use in my kit and
Yeah.
how to do that. So it kind of is a different thing.
Yeah. I think it all, again, because we're all visual as well,
Yeah.
and you've been studying faces for years, you can just see what's going to work, and you can look at the colours or the outfits, colours of the outfits even, and go, oh yeah, that's going to work with that. That's going to work with that. Oh, your skin tone's this, or you might look at mine and be like, you're a bit dry. I'm going to use this, rather than somebody who's a bit more dewy, who you'd use a different product. And I think that comes from just evolving and, like you say, going on lots of different paths in order to get where you are.
Yeah.
It gives you that exposure to learn lots of different things, and in turn make you a better hair and makeup artist.
And I feel like age doesn't matter in hair and makeup.
Yeah.
And I feel like older people you don't see a lot of 22-year-old makeup artists. So I feel like,
No.
in a way, and not being very confident back then, I probably needed that time to
Hmm.
build my confidence in another way and then come into it when I was more confident, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I think as well, the trends change so much
Mm.
within hair and makeup and fashion. And, like now, for me, the makeup's so heavy.
Oh, yeah.
Like, like what girls are doing every day. I'm like, geez, you've got time to put all of this on your face.
Yeah.
Like, I'm lucky that I put mascara on, and I think the trends change so much. And that's just an evolution of time, isn't it? And
Totally.
new products being developed and things. But yeah, I think you're right. You don't see many young makeup artists at all. I've maybe know a handful of hair and makeup artists who are younger, but they're mostly assisting at the moment.
Or like in e-com, like there's like fast
Mm,
fashion e-com brands, but they tend to be very young teams and it's very
yeah.
fast turnaround. But I feel like recently, when it got very Kim Kardashian, people were contouring with black skin
Yes.
foundation and white skin, and I kind of got to the point where everybody wanted that look, the very heavy look. And I came through a time where it was very, like Bobby Brown was big and it was all very natural and glowy. And I've always loved, like, I've done a lot of sports, I've done a lot of commercial. I do that makeup where you don't necessarily look too glam, but you just look really polished. And there's a bit of
Yeah.
glow and a bit of shape, but it's not contoured to the point of craziness. And I remember just thinking, wow, like I keep going on these jobs and they keep putting out these pictures, and I just know that they've been
Yeah.
contoured to death, and the eyebrows. But I feel like it's quite nice now because I think it's come away from that again, and eyebrows have now gone brushier, and a lot of the briefs I get now, the makeup's more glowier and it's a lot softer. And I think you do contour if you use blusher in the right area, but it's quite
Yeah.
nice. But at one point, I just thought, wow, I can't. That's not me. But I feel like you have to believe in who you are, because the right clients who like your look will book you. And I feel like sometimes you don't want to be good at, you don't have to be good at uber glam, because there's lots of people that's all they do. But if they try and do a sports, like in the gym, slightly sweaty, looks like you've got no makeup on, then they would struggle with that. So you've got to find your place.
Yeah, you've got to find your niche, haven't you? Like
Totally.
your little thing that you're really good at. And I think that's a big part of it. I definitely, when I've watched things like RuPaul's Drag Race
Mm,
and the Glow Up show, and they've got younger makeup artists on there,
yeah.
or there's drag queens doing very heavy makeup who are on show under lights for like
Mm,
hours on end. And then you see the bits of influence from these shows where people are, the younger generation are then diluting kind of the drag queen contour that's really like harsh and putting it into their everyday looks. And I'm like, this is incredible. I like to see where their influences come from and to see how it's evolved from point A to point B, and, you know, and how dramatic some people can make their eyebrows and their contour. And, you know, it fascinates me because I'm very much a tomboy and put mascara on. And, you know, I had probably had the most makeup on my wedding day when Thembi did my makeup.
Oh, she's amazing.
I love her. And that was, I loved it. I loved having it done, but I wouldn't be able to replicate what she did.
No. I feel like then sometimes you find that a lot of the young kids now, you go on a night out and they look a bit like Stepford Wives because they've contoured their face into this perfect and this eyebrow shape, but they almost lose them and their beautifulness.
Yes.
And I love models with freckles and gaps in teeth and red hair, you know, unusual. And I feel like sometimes you want to underplay if they don't need it, you know, rather than just do the uniformed, this is my look.
Yeah. I think my mum made a very good point because my mum used to teach kids to swim. So when she saw the kids, say like when they were in their teenage years, you know, in the town or whatever, she saw a load of girls and she said they all looked the same because they had the same hair, the same eyebrow shape, the same makeup. And she couldn't tell who was who because they all just had the same like face. And she's like, but they're all beautiful kids and they've just all plastered it on. But then, you know, back in the day, me and my sister did rock the, was it Maybelline Mousse that was orange that you like slung on? And we definitely had like the orange line around our jawline and, you know, bright blue mascara and stuff. And it was certainly a look. So they'll probably look back on it in 20 years and be like, fucking hell, what on earth was I doing?
Well, they're really young. They don't realise that it does evolve. So like they look at their mums with no eyebrows who plucked them and they don't realise that eventually it'll probably come back where people have got skinny eyebrows and then all these people with beautiful fat eyebrows will be plucking them, and everything always changes and everything always comes back sometimes, or you go through an 80s revival or it just, lips go really matte and then they go really glossy and then they go bright and, you know, it just, everything always changes. But I feel like when you're young, you don't realise that and you really invest in this. And then also you see makeup artists, some makeup artists could put makeup on with just a spoon and their face could look absolutely amazing because they've got the skill. But you've got a young girl who is plastering it on with sponges, and that's when you look closely, you're like, wow, that, you know, like stripes everywhere. You know, I mean, even there's like pictures of Kim Kardashian close up where her contouring's all a bit weird, and you know, you just think, well, it does happen, but you know, like if you're 15 and you've self-taught yourself off YouTube, which I'm a huge fan of, you know, there's so much you can learn on YouTube these days, but it does, you do need to practice because it's makeup's a touch, isn't it, and having the right brushes.
Yeah, and like I'm on that point, like because me and my sister and my mum are all quite sporty, my mum never really wore makeup, so we never really learned how to do it.
No,
because we weren't following anybody, and YouTube wasn't a thing when we were younger.
No.
So now I'm doing like a winged eyeliner and red lipstick, and like hoping for the best that my foundation's the right color, you know. And but these kids are like learning a whole new skill that just wasn't available to us when we were younger.
I mean, it's amazing, isn't it? I mean, to think...
Yeah, it's incredible.
If you want a recipe, I don't even look in a recipe book now. You just Google it, and then you print it off if you like it. And it's the same, like if I've got a hair job and people are, it's like, they want beach hair, and I've seen the model, I might just look at a few YouTube videos and just look at different techniques and tongs, and, you know, just, you can learn so much, but there's so much information that some of it, it's not even real, you know, like when people are suggesting this product and you're like, that woman is not using that makeup. That
product. Yeah.
So you got to realize that sometimes people are just selling you some weird brands. Like there's some kids now that get the makeup out and show me, and like, I don't know any of these brands because they bought them all off YouTubers and things.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's like, I'm not sure how I feel about being sold loads of products on Instagram and YouTube and TikTok or what have you,
Yeah.
you know, via people. Like, I'm not sure how I feel about that. I'd much rather like go to a makeup counter and be like, my skin's like this. What do you recommend? You know, rather than, yeah, I'm just not sure how I feel about it, especially when it's something so unique to you, makeup, I think.
No, I agree. I mean, it's nice because sometimes it can highlight new brands, like there's certain brands that are big in America and they start using them, and then suddenly it comes over. So you can highlight and go, oh, I'll try that brand. But people that
Yeah.
buy I mean, I don't understand how people get foundation tested online now, and the computer takes a picture of your face and then it sends you the perfect colour. That can't always be accurate.
No, I don't think it can, because your camera on your phone is different and your screen's different to your laptop, and like there's loads of color collaboration, not calibrating that needs to happen before
And if you're in
you get the right
daylight
color.
or
Yeah, or artificial light or like a red light or whatever.
exactly.
Like, yeah, that's what, not sure how I feel about that either.
I'm old school. I mean, I do have some discounts with certain companies, but I only really buy things that I've either tested in the store or like rebuy the things that I love and always use. So I wouldn't just suddenly go, hey, I'm going to take a risk and buy this unless it's in the sale, because I do love a sale.
Yeah. Oh, don't we all? Don't we all? But yeah, I think that's it. Like, also, you would run the risk if you bought a new product and then tried it on somebody and it was on a shoot, of it just you having to redo it, or you know, it looking bad or whatever. I mean, you run the risk of it looking amazing as well, don't you? But that's quite a high risk if you're on a job and you're trying something for the first time.
Yeah, especially if you don't know, because you can get these products that sound great, but actually they're full of oil. So if you've got somebody if you're trying to make the foundation last for the whole day, you know, sometimes the worst thing you want to do is put a shiny, oily foundation on, because you're just going to have to, especially if they've got an oily skin. So sometimes knowing that I've got a foundation that's going to be really good and have longevity, or I've got foundations for people that are super dry. So I tend to rebuy the same again and just buy odd little bits and introduce things slowly. But I always joke that my makeup and hair kit is worth more than my car, and that's the sad thing. Even when I bought a new car recently, it was still probably, you know, it's probably a lot of money. It's like $8,000 worth of stuff. To rebuy it again, I would reckon, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. I think people don't realise how much how valuable our kits are, because obviously your kit's poles apart from mine. I've got things like kebab sticks and blue tack in mine, but still to rebuy the whole lot would still be a couple £100.
And all the bags.
And all the bags and
all the organisation.
The kit and like the box. And I think my styling box is one from B&Q, it's like a builder's box.
Yeah, I love them.
And they're so handy, but they're heavy, which is a good thing, because then you can knock it about a bit. But that's like over £100 just for the box.
No,
you know, so it's the same. Like, you know, people don't realise how much money in order for you to do your job, you need to have that behind you to even complete your job.
And a foundation now, my foundations are $37.50.
Oh, fuck.
And lipsticks are about £20 plus, you know, and if you're looking at the higher brands that people are crazy for, like Charlotte Tilbury, etc. now, they're all like £35-40 for lipstick. And it is scary, because if you're not careful, and if you think about how many, I probably have 40 to 50 different lipsticks chopped up and melted in a pot. So, you know, it's a huge investment, but it's something that's worth having a good range. But you can be quite clever about it as well sometimes, because it can get super pricey if you just buy everything Charlotte Tilbury, for example.
Yeah. Do you mix quite a lot of your colours as well? So say you've got like a base range of like lip colours, do you then mix some on a like palette and then you've got a different colour? Is that how you kind of work?
I tend to have my go-to colours, and I tend to have a really good range of lip liners as well. So if If somebody wants a red or a hot pink for a summer outfit or nudes, I tend to have lots and lots of lip liners because I think they last longer and they don't smudge. So I tend to have lip liner in all my favourite colours, and then sometimes I just gloss them up. Or I've also got loads of lipsticks, but it is quite scary when you look at just what sort of colour range. But it is quite nice because I know that I can always mix things together or mix foundations or,
Yeah.
But sometimes you get to a job and they're like, "Oh, have you got a blue lipstick?" And I'm like, I did it up recently, and I think they wanted pastel colours eyeshadows. Everything had to be pastel. I had 3 different models, and they all needed totally different pastel shades on the eyes and nails and everything. And then she was like, "Yeah, but everything has to be totally matte." And I'm like, well, having this, because most of our colours is like brown and neutrals in what we do. Yeah. So I thought, well, actually having a good colour range I'm lucky, because most people don't hoard makeup like I do. But then to suddenly say, but no shimmer, because most pastely colours are quite shimmery, and I was like, this is, we did it, but I thought you really should have told me about this beforehand.
Yeah. It's that communication sometimes, I think, with clients. Sometimes they just say, "Oh, can we just do this?" at the last minute, and you're like, "Oh," like you have an internal panic, and you're like, "Yeah, I can do it," and then you're trying to figure it out whilst you're sorting it out on set or whatever.
And it's really hard because sometimes I look at the brief and I'm like, right, this outfit, you're saying the hair should go up here, but actually it's actually a lot. You're not going to get the hair to do that if we do this to it first. So maybe sometimes it's good to be really organised, and because you do look through and think, actually, if you want that hair now and you want height, but you want to do a sleek pony first, it's easier to, sometimes it's good to be structured, or that it's better makeup wise to put more makeup on than it is to start taking off. If you start with a smoky eye and then you go to a neutral eye, you're like, well, that's taken off the eye, where I can do a neutral eye and then I can build it up and change the colours without taking as much off. So sometimes it is good to be I'm such an organiser though, aren't I?
Yeah. But I think that's it from your experience, you saying about the hair. Like, I wouldn't think, oh, well, the hair's going to be awkward to go from height to sleek pony.
Yeah.
But with you saying that, then you can organise the shoot to which way it makes everybody's time more efficient.
Totally.
So therefore getting the job done in the best time frame.
Because sometimes on a shoot, if you're faffing and the hair's not right, because you need the time to fix it, but sometimes at the end of the shoot they're like, "Oh, it's fine," and you're like, you're not going to be saying that when you look at the pictures, so you've got to get it right, or make sure you organise it in a way that the hair can flow, because once the hair's fluffy you can't really make it that sleek.
And often there isn't sort of like a basin to rewash their hair, and you're kind of crammed into a dark studio or like a little pokey room somewhere.
I have a really funny experience of this. I had to paint somebody off the television for a magazine as a Bond girl, fully gold. But first we had to do a fashion shoot with highlights of gold. And then at the end, body painter in full gold for the photo shoot. But then they said to me, "Oh, actually, we can't do it that way. We can only do it the other way." So they made me body painter in full oil body paint gold. Then we had to shower her. And then
my God.
Her skin was like really red afterwards. And I was like, for some reason, they just couldn't shoot it that way. But I was like, this is horrendous. This other way around, it would have been fine. But it was a fun day at the office.
Oh, God. I can imagine as well, because like paint, it's quite hard to like scrub off, especially if it's been under the massive lights as well.
Yeah. And that was theatre paint, so it's what you would have
oh yeah.
Yeah, so, and it was oil based, so it took a lot of breaking it down with, and it was everywhere. It was a mess, but it was fun. But
oh jeez, I can imagine. I can imagine you getting the hose pipe out on it, right? Outside. Let's wash you down, hun.
I felt so sorry for her, because when she was just like, "This is not the shoot that I thought I was walking into."
Yeah, I can imagine. You can imagine like just being like, oh fuck, now I'm just gonna get covered in gold paint at like 9 in the morning. Like, oh.
Yeah, especially because it was the wrong way around. Because you just think, well, once you've had that, you last thing you want to do is then get glam and start wearing lots of clothes. But it just made me
Well,
laugh so
yeah.
much.
Oh my god, it sounds so funny. Sounds so funny. Um, so I also know that you enjoy styling kids as well, like doing the hair and makeup for kids.
Yes.
How did that come about? Did you just get booked on a kid's job one day and think, oh, actually, this is ace? Or was it something that was kind of like you were hunting for kind of thing?
I think it kind of just happened. I was working at a studio for a company where they shot kids a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And one day they were short and asked me to help out because they were doing back to school catalogue. And they asked me to just fill in for one day. But I'm the kind of person that, although I've never wanted children, I'm surrounded by children. I'm an uncle. All my friends, I'm like uncle to their kids. I'm a godfather, all the neighbours, the kids are like, I've just, when you've just got a real natural, silly, if they want to be a plane, I'll be a plane too. And we'll,
Yeah.
people call me the Pied Piper because it's really awkward because if we're in the park with my friends' kids, all the other kids are like, hey, you're more fun. So like all the other kids start playing and I'm just a bit like, I look a bit like a weirdo. But I think in this industry, you need to find your niche. A lot of people start off wanting to be in television, but realize that the hours are really long. And I think I've always tried. I think some things I've just fell into. I think I've always been really good at locations, and being that makeup artist that can get people ready in a hotel and be on location all day and maintain. I get a lot of that, and the children's stuff I just love. But I think with kids, you've got to realize that sometimes if they're really shy, it's good to give them energy. But then sometimes the hardest thing is when if you wind a kid up too much, So sometimes it's like you'll notice that when we've worked with children,
yeah,
if they're getting a bit excitable, I go and sit behind the computer and I let sometimes the stylist go in or the photographer. So like I'm kind of excitable, let's have fun person, and then there's always like a hey, let's be calm person. So it does, but you just work out your way. But my prop bag is everyone laughs at all my ears and I stick them on the photographer's head. But I just love it, and I would say that about 30% of my work is children's now.
Oh wow!
Like, and I absolutely love it. It's quite easy. It reminds me of being a child doing my sister's hair. There's lots of braids and clips and. And it's just really good fun. It's quite tiring though, because sometimes my hubby's like, "Are you tired?" It's like, "Yeah," and he's like, "I've checked on your Instagram. You've been doing like star jumps with the kids all day or something." And I'm like, "It's quite tiring that."
Yeah, it's almost like entertaining. I always find that with doing styling model, it's draining because you're almost hosting.
Yeah.
So you've got to keep everybody's energy up, and then in turn, you're personally, my social battery like drops. Even though I can talk for England, I get home and I'm the same, and Nath will go like, have you just run out of words today? It's because I've been on set all day, gassing. But I do think you're right. Like there's a point with kids where you need to find that happy medium of like, they're happy on set, so you get loads of smiles and nice poses, but they're not almost going so excitable that they need to take 10 minutes out to go and meditate for.
And then you always find you've got parents going, if you're good, here you go, here's a sweet. And you're like, do not give that child any more sugar.
Yeah, exactly. I remember, I'm not sure if you were the makeup artist on it actually, but I had a brother and sister at a studio, and we were doing, I think it was pajamas or something, and they were just vibing off each other, which was great for the first 10 minutes. But then they stopped listening. And then they just went crazy. And I was like, right, guys, let's just sit down for a minute. Let's do a deep breath in, deep breath out. And I like properly calm them down. And they just like eventually chilled out, but they were like, oh, it's quite nice to sit and just take a breath for a minute. And I was like thinking, yeah, because you've been pinging off the fucking walls.
No, it is difficult. And yeah, I find that sometimes if you just like with my niece, sometimes when she was young, she was the sort of kid that if you were like, hey, she'd like look at you funny. But I learned with her, if you just ignored her for a bit, then when she was ready, she'd come. So I think with some kids, if their energy's too high, I just go, right,
Yeah.
go,
Yeah.
take them off, give them 5 minutes, and bring them back on. But it's definitely an unpredictable ship.
Yeah, 100%, because you just don't know, especially since COVID as well, where they used to book 2 models for the same shot.
Oh yeah.
And now they only book 1, and it can be completely, well, it's much like all of us, isn't it? If you're having a bad day, as an adult, you probably hide it a little bit better, but a kid will just show their emotions straight away.
Oh yeah.
Which sometimes isn't ideal on set. I remember I had a toddler and we were like trying to get her to sit on like a push along like little bus or something. And she just didn't want to just sit still. She just wanted to play, which is fine. You know, she's surrounded by loads of toys. Great. That's what she wants to do. But we just couldn't get a shot out of her because every time the photographer went behind the camera, she just started crying. I just think it's just the way, it's just the way kids are. They just show their emotions straight up, which is not necessarily a bad quality, I don't think.
No, I was working for this catalogue company a few weeks ago, just before I went to Thailand. And there's this little girl, stunning, beautiful, loved the dress, but the dress came with a hat. It was like a matching summer hat. She would not wear the hat. And so we all end up in this hat at one point. Your turn now. Yeah. It's like, no. But it's really difficult because at some point, you've got to make it fun, but then at the same time, I don't think they realise that it's a job as well, because they don't really know what a job is. Yeah. So it's that fine line of sometimes you have to be slight bad cop and just be like, right, remember, you're like, oh, it's really good though to show them the screen, because usually once they see the pictures, they're like, oh, can I do more? So sometimes I think they realise, once they see the screen, if they're looking good, play to their vanity. It works for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it, isn't it? I mean, like I was on set yesterday doing some outdoor lights, and the photographer is just checking his light. But again, I was bent over, so all on his screen was just my arse again. So I never look good in these shots.
Oh,
unlike these kids, it's just a big moon of my bum.
The stylist, all you ever see, because I always used to say to this male stylist I was like, wear a belt. Please, just wear a belt. Because you have to crouch down and pull the trouser and things. And I was just like,
yeah.
And now, like, I always wear a belt, because obviously as a hair and makeup artist, I have to put like a lot of body cream on legs sometimes. And, there's so many pictures where I'm just like, I'm glad I wore that belt, because another inch and it just gets a bit revealing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially because I'm really, really long. I'm super tall anyway, but all my height is in my body. So a lot of tops can look like a tank top after about 10 minutes of me, like, touching the hair and things. You would see a lot of, like, it's not good after a certain age, is it?
I don't know. I think you can rock a crop top. I think you can.
Maybe not after Thailand. Yeah, I feel like it's like, oh, pad thai is not as healthy, isn't it? But you're like, yeah, not a bucket of it.
Every day.
Yeah, and it's so cheap. You're like, let's get the papaya salad as well, and I'll get this, and yeah. We'll do a picky.
You're eating that. Oh yeah, nice. I love a picky tea.
Oh yeah,
like that, where you're just all sharing. Oh, lush.
I went to my sister-in-law's today, and she said, "Oh, make yourself a sandwich." So, there's nothing better than going in, like a family house's fridge, and it's got 4 different types of hams and like lots of lettuce leaves, and you need lots of pickles and chutneys, and you're like, oh, I love this,
Yeah, I love doing that. I love doing it in my mum and dad's house, and I'm like, right, what they got in their fridge?
Yeah, let's make a sandwich.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. So I've got down on my notepad that you worked with Bjork.
Yes.
Do tell me. Let's fill the listeners in.
Well, I'm going to tell you, when I was in art college, it was debut post time. So like her first albums came out and I was huge. This is like the awakening of my artisticness, and I associate all my creativity with like GCSE art and college when her first three albums came out, and I just was a super fan. I've seen her live, like, well, a lot more now because I did concerts with her. So, and I've got every single album. I've got all the Japanese versions of all the live albums. I've got all the, it's just something that I've always like really been into. I mean, now I don't really listen to music as much, and I think her music is a little more creative now. So I feel like I have to be in the mood to listen to like the newer stuff. But old stuff I absolutely love. Anyway, I get a phone call one day, and this guy's like, "Hi, I've got Bjork's doing a tour for the MIF. I don't suppose you'd be interested in doing a makeup, would you?" And I was like, "Are you joking?" And in my living room, I actually had the Homogenic album framed from the tour. So like, I was just like looking in my living room, like, "Are you joking? Is it because I'm obsessed with her?" And the guy was like, "No." So so I actually ended up doing the tour, and there was 8 dates, but I think with the press night and with the practice, I did a makeup 10 times, and it was truly amazing, but it was like so nerve-wracking as well doing somebody, because I've done lots of sports people, I've done lots of people off the television, but people that I'm like, I don't really watch that, or I don't really watch football. So I've met a lot of, and I've never really been that bothered, because I think in this job you get to go to amazing places, go to stately homes, go backstage. There's you get to see a lot of amazing things. So we started doing the tour, and the makeup was super creative, and the time frame. But then what I realised is when you're like with a model, I get a brief. The model's not really that bothered what the brief is, and I get to do hair and makeup the way I want to the brief, and the person I answer to is the other person. If somebody's going on stage, they've got a huge amount of nerves. This is what I learned this made it very stressful for me. So they're really nervous, and also you've got to do the makeup the way they want it. So I had to do it like waves were hitting the face. So I had to do circles of blue with glitter around it, and I had like an hour to do it. But because she was nervous, and it was a very busy place, and she was launching the Biophilia album, it was because she was nervous as well, but then she would do things like I'd had to draw a full circle on the face, but it wasn't a true circle because it had to look like a circle and the face isn't actually flat. So it was a fake circle. So I had to do it anyway. But whilst I was doing this, she would like be doing vocal warm-ups. So she's like, no. And I was like, like when you just and it was one of them hot summers where it was like literally like super hot.
Yeah.
And I remember at that time just thinking, I don't think this is my kind of makeup anymore. And I remember she did the tour in the Isle of Wight a few months later and brought the tour to the Isle of Wight festival. And I remember thinking, although I really loved the whole experience as a whole, I remember thinking, please don't phone me. Please don't phone me. Because it was so stressful. But I loved the things I took from it was, I absolutely loved the fact that I got to listen to like decisions about what a next single was going to be and why. So I got like Fanboy, that was amazing. And then when I took her makeup off at the end of the night, she was so nice and chilled, and we had some gorgeous chats. So doing the makeup was horrible, but taking it off, I was just like, that's so cool. So I learned a lot, and I also thought to myself, it's nice that I got asked to do that, but that makeup, I didn't realise the makeup was going to be that creative at the time. But I think I've learned to be a bit more like, this is what I like to do, and this is the part of industry I like to work in. And I probably would be a lot more fussier about Like I got an offer recently to work for quite a uber glamorous makeup, and I was like, you know what? There's better people for that. You know,
Yeah.
I'm the sports person. I do natural. I do people in pajamas. You know, glowy. You know, so I think you have to stay true to your strengths, really, because
Yeah.
if it's not your comfort zone anyway. But it was an amazing experience.
It sounds it. But also I get that whole nerve thing. Like I can imagine the energy was like a little bit how do I describe this? Like a little bit fizzy, that like she's nervous about getting on
Yeah,
stage and like performing, and you're like under a time pressure to get everything done right, and you can just imagine that there's like fizzy kind of like anxious, I guess, like
yeah,
energy around. And then like you say with the end of the night where she's have relaxed because she's taken a makeup off, she knows the gig's gone well,
yeah.
you
That was
know,
the
that's
best bit, really. That's when I felt like I really enjoyed it. But there's a few, and I
yeah.
think I'd given up smoking. I'd literally given up
Ah,
smoking 2 months before, and I think I'd literally just come off all the drugs, and
yeah.
I literally was just. And I remember just thinking, just smoke, just go. And I just thought, no, you can't do this. This is your ultimate challenge. And you're like, it was so hot. I just remember, you know, when your hands are so sticky and you're so anxious that you
Yeah.
get that
Yeah.
little. Yeah, it was definitely a challenging job. But I feel like sometimes there is some jobs where the pressure's super high. Like I've had
Mm.
other jobs where the model's been flown in from Brazil for the day only. There's like a big desk where the clients are at special couches, and there's like 20 clients. Nobody's talking to the model. You've got this brief. Everyone's not talking to you, but an art director might go, oh, change this, change that. And sometimes on them jobs, the really high pressured jobs or like if you're doing like a top footballer,
Yeah.
there's a level of pressure with that. And I feel like
Yeah.
maybe I'm better doing being silly with the children and doing, you know, like the kind of jobs where it's like pretty makeup, but it's not kind of life and death and like A-lister, and they're always late. And because I've done a lot of like getting people ready for the BAFTAs in the past, and I think I do definitely prefer working with models than people off the television or celebrities, because it's a whole different vibe.
Yeah.
I think I like just dropped in 3 different subjects there.
Yeah. Yeah. But I feel like it's that I've styled some footballers
Yeah.
before, and the difference in some of the footballers, I'm not going to mention names of them.
No.
Some of them were like petty teenagers
Yeah.
wiping their nose on the prop clothes, and then some of them would look you square in the eye and treat you like a human and
Mm.
chat to you normally. They didn't. They weren't standoffish, or they were just, you know, they're just people. And I think no matter where your status is within the world, I think you should always treat everybody the same. But it definitely, some of this high pressure comes from people from, I don't really know where I'm going with this, but like it comes from people assuming that this person's really big and really famous, and they're
Mm.
really like, you know, everything has to be perfect. And actually, they're just people. And they're probably actually, you know, if everybody in your situation, say, actually opened up and chatted to each other, it'd probably be more relaxed. But it's almost like the client's putting pressure on because it's a model that's been flown in from Brazil,
Yeah.
and a really high end model or a really high end footballer or whatever. And so you almost have that internal pressure of like, oh God, I've got to make it perfect.
You know what I've
And
learned
not
when I get
everything is
nervous
perfect.
now? If I've ever got a really big job, sorry, I do the hardest thing first.
Yeah.
Because I just think if I ever get nervous and they come in and go, right, you've got 5 minutes when I need 20 minutes, I'm not
Yeah.
rushing the hardest thing. So what I
Yeah.
tend to do now is I always do the liquid liner first, or I'll always do the eyeliner first, and then I will
Yeah.
work on the base and I'll start the hair, and then at the end of it I'll just go over the liner again. And I always
Yeah.
like to know that the hardest thing is done.
It's done. Yeah.
And because I
Yeah.
find that like doing things like that under pressure is
Oh, Jesus.
it's
Oh,
especially like a liquid liner, and they're
yeah.
sometimes if they're like sometimes you get models who are eating breakfast, like at the end, and like so sometimes if you get the hardest thing done, you can relax, because if you're trying to do a liquid liner but somebody's trying to get a change at the same time, or it's
Yeah,
just good to get the hardest thing done, so in that rush of the last minute you're not trying to suddenly do the perfect lip line, or so that's something I've learned over the years, that I've, even to this day, if I've got a job where I'm just like, right, there's going to be pressure later, I'm like, do the hardest thing first, and then I can blend the foundation with my eyes closed. It doesn't matter.
yeah, yeah. I think that's right, actually. It's really good advice, because it does work. Because the hardest thing, or the thing that you think the client's going to pick up on the most, it gives them more time to come and look at it
Yeah.
and go, oh, actually, I want to change that. And you've got like, right, okay, well, I can carry on with the rest of the other bits can be shortened. It's fine. I've not got to take 20 minutes to do that. I can do that in 5, or yeah. I think that's good advice. That
Yeah, it is good.
yeah.
If you found it in teams, the way that we chat a lot.
Yeah.
Sometimes I listened to a podcast and it was all about self-editing recently, and it's made me think a lot about it, because I've learned that mostly my personality works well on a shoot, but every so often on a quieter or an older shoot, or quite like sometimes I've just been a bit like, learn to be quiet, so sometimes it's really interesting to, when you've got quite a strong personality and you do hairdresser chit chat, like when I'm nervous I chat more, so sometimes and we chat like two old women at a bus stop, so
yeah.
but do you ever like think about, I mean, it's good to be conscious, I think, and it's good to be aware. Sometimes you can be over conscious and over aware, but I think that self-editing thing, I've really thought about that recently, and just being like, know when you're talking too much, know when to let them talk a bit.
Yeah, that's something I struggle with. And I actually, on my most recent shoot, I was working with a photographer I'd not worked with before. And I said to him off the bat, I said, look, I'm chatty and I can work and chat at the same time. I said, but if I'm annoying you, or if I'm talking too much, I won't take offense if you say, just zip it, hun.
Yeah.
Because I think I struggle to self-regulate. My sister will be wetting herself because she knows that I just go and see my sister and I'm like, tick, 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 don't shut up. But I think it's you're right there to learn to self-regulate with the chit chat sometimes.
Exactly.
I'm an open book as well, though. That's my issue, because then someone asks me a question about, I don't know, tattoos or whatever, and then I'm off on a tangent for 20 minutes.
Oh yeah.
But I do think that I think being chatty on a shoot helps, because it helps relax people.
Yeah, and it's good to be nice vibe.
Yeah.
And on the big shoots, nobody talks to the model, though everyone's looking at the screen. No. So it is nice sometimes to be like, oh, he entertained the model, and that's a nice rapport.
Yeah. I think that's I definitely noticed that. I did a big shoot and I was there to do props. And so I'm dressing this Christmas tree. And the producer came over because I've known him for years, but nobody else really came over because they're so busy doing their own thing. And then the model walked in, and obviously he went to fit and and then to hair and makeup, and then he just was like, hey, and chatted to me, and I was like, oh, you're right, because I am learning that sometimes I do need to shut up to focus fully, especially if I've got loads. That day I had probably 6 set changes, so it's quite a lot, with model and everything in as well. So it is nice to sit and focus, but I do need to chat. If I have a day off and Naif's at work, I'm chatting to the cashier, I'm chatting to the people in the charity shop for 20 minutes. I'm like,
oh, I love a charity shop.
Got to get it out. Oh, me too. There's some good ones here.
I'll have to come down. I was a bit gutted you didn't invite me to come to your house to record. But you know what? I get this funny twitch. And I always know when. It's like a bit of a stomach thing. And I always know when to go to the charity shop. or when to buy a lottery ticket. But I never win a pound or
Oh,
two. But I just
yeah,
some days I just get this urge, and I just know that and I always find the thing that I've because I like to visualize a lot. I did this.
yeah,
So like sometimes I'm like, if I want a piece of furniture, I'll visualize it, or I'm looking for a top like this, and I'll visualize it, and then I'll always go into a charity shop, and
yeah,
eventually it will come to me. So,
yeah,
but you get this funny twitch.
yeah, yeah. Well, you need to come when the kitchen's done and we're out of this horrible DIY scenario. Well, you'll have to come over, and I'll drag you around the charity shops here.
We'll
There's
do
so
it.
many.
When I heard
It's
you and
good.
Cicely
Yeah,
talking about it, I was like, oh, that bit sounds like a bit of me.
yeah,
That well, that
yeah.
place
There's
that we work, I love the charity shops around there.
Oh, there's some good ones there. There's some good ones in there.
You always need a bit of
Um,
money, don't you? If they've got a bit of money in the area, you always know that they're like,
yeah,
oh, I'm going to get rid of this blouse. It was brand new from John Lewis. And you're like, okay, love, that's mine
yeah,
now.
yeah. I do find sometimes here in Holmfirth, they know what they're selling, so sometimes they'll sell stuff a bit too pricey.
Yeah.
But I found a salt lamp. I'll show you it. Hold on, let me turn it off.
Oh, I love that.
Sorry, listeners, you can't see it.
Yeah, I've seen.
And it was £4,
No, that is amazing.
and it was like pat tested and everything.
And if you run out of salt, you can chip a bit off.
Yeah, that's it. I just keep it up high so the dog doesn't lick it. But yeah, like I'd been manifesting one for ages.
No, they're amazing.
And then found it in the charity shop for £4. They're about 40 quid, aren't they, normally?
Does it do weird water things? Because I had a candle, like, you know, with your tea light holder that somebody gave
Yeah.
me. And one day I picked it up and it was all wet, and I think the salt must have attracted the moisture.
Oh.
And in the end, I ended up binning it because it had gone a funny colour.
Oh, no, I've not noticed. But
they are great.
They're really good. I always have it on when I'm recording because I just think it's a nice glow, and I just quite like it. It's got a nice glow about it. But I'm the same with charity shop stuff. I manifest stuff.
It's good.
I've got like fleeces and actually, I don't know if you saw my Instagram stories the other day, but I needed a black dress. So I went on Vinted and got a couple of black dresses, got like a wrap dress. And I thought, this dress is £5, amazing. It'll be like mid-length. It was wrap over, long sleeves, kind of had like it was shiny, but like a silky kind of material, but had like a floral pattern on it. Anyway, I got it, tried it on at home, and it was like I'd come out of the Victorian era. It was floor length. And it was like, I looked very like death metal in it. And like I needed like a little lace, maybe like a little lace umbrella or something. And I said to Nath, I was like, I see why it was £5. It was just awful.
Can you get it adjusted?
Yeah, I think my friend's gonna take the skirt off and then reattach it to the top like 6 inches shorter. But it was too much. It was like I was going on some sort of school trip for, when the kids are going to Victorian times old school or something.
Like a bustle.
Yeah.
You look like some sort of like period drama from the BBC.
Yeah, that's it. But then another one came today, and that actually it fits perfectly and it looks nice and it's shorter and stuff. So I've got two. That's cool. I love Vinted.
Don't you feel like the more you do this job, the more suspicious I am about now? I try not to buy anything full price. So because I know that anything you in the shop, if it doesn't sell, will go half price. Mm-hmm. Or and you just, the more you've worked and you see the same trends coming in and out, and then you're like, oh well, I need them wide leg trousers because everyone's got them. But so I'm the sort of guy that buys his on Vinted, would buy his Birkenstocks in winter, because nobody wants them and everyone's getting rid of them. And I just think it's more like a game, because you just think the more you do this, there's so much waste in fashion. And actually,
100%.
If I can find it in a charity shop, or I can find it on Vinted, then it's absolutely... Or selling stuff on Vinted is really good as well. So it's quite nice, isn't it, to just cherish things and just think, oh, I don't care if that is the style, it doesn't suit me. You just think you get your own personal thing. But I think being clever about how you consume is so important, rather than just buying crazy stuff. Because the more you see this job, the more you just think you're just being sold to and marketed to, and
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And I think as I've gotten older,
yeah,
I've definitely know my style now. So then I'm buying stuff like my dungarees that I always wear,
yeah,
or like I'm always in like bright clothes, or I love a cycling short and a t-shirt. I couldn't give a flying shit if they're in fashion or not. They're comfortable for me, and I know that I'm going to get loads of wear out of them.
yeah.
But
And you don't want to be too
I mean,
smart in our job because it's dirty and
oh no,
dusty. So,
yeah, and
like, I never wear white when I'm doing makeup, and I'm really careful. Like, I wouldn't wear my. I've got three different. I've got like going out clothes. Then I've got kind of like pretty smart. Then I've got like work clothes that can get dirty and get lipstick smeared all over them. And then
yeah,
everything it goes down to eventually it goes down to allotment clothes. So
yeah,
so like my wardrobe's on this like trajectory of like it
yeah,
gets used and loved and everything else. But I think in our job, you look at people dressed up like TV makeup artists, and you just think you wouldn't last 5 minutes.
yeah, yeah, 100%. And I see like fashion stylists they look amazing, and then I think, A, how are you on your feet all day,
Yeah,
those shoes? B, how are you comfortable because you're head to toe in pleather or something? I
yeah.
mean, don't get me wrong, I've got a pair of like pleather jogger type things which are great for work, but like, I just don't get how they can be high fashion and on set getting sweaty and hot and, tearing about all day and not be comfortable. Like, I'd rather be in a t-shirt, like jeans and a pair of trainees or something, and not worry if my jeans get a hole in or get covered in gravel like I was this week.
You know, it's quite funny though. Sometimes on the high fashion stylists, they have assistants, and I've noticed that this stylist that I know quite well. But I took the mickey out of her the other day. I went, "You never steam. You always get your assistant to do it." She was like, "Oh yeah," because I said, "What do you actually do?" Because you're picking the clothes, but it's all being steamed really. So you got to have a little bit of a joke about each other's, like, oh, you just like fluff the hair a little bit or something. So
Yeah, yeah,
we had a bit of
yeah.
banter
Just
about it. It's like, you don't even
make.
steam, you get your assistant to do it.
God, I would have loved an assistant this week. I was literally shoveling gravel on a garden set this week.
Well, it sounds lovely.
Oh, mate, it really wasn't. And then I put like my pleather joggers on, and it was like I was wearing a wetsuit. I was so sweaty.
Really? Did you get all gravel marks
Yeah,
on it? Because I bet the pleather would have looked beautiful with a gravel
yeah,
imprint.
yeah, yeah. I did, and then I would use so many baby wipes just to wipe my clothes down or my hands, and like it was just one of those where like somebody was like, "Can you move the planter back in?" And I had to shovel gravel back over to one side, and it's fine, but it's part of the job. But I can't wear nice stuff. I just can't.
No, it's
I'd
not
rather
worth
be
it.
in my slobs. No. Um, so it is nice to get dressed up, don't get me wrong, but yeah, I can't wear super nice stuff to work because I'd just be scared of ruining it.
You know what I was thinking of the other day when I pre this? Sorry, I've just totally changed the subject. Is that bad?
No, you're right.
I'm
Go
not
for it.
interviewing
Go for
you
it.
now. Sorry.
Go
No,
for
I was
it.
thinking because I'd mentioned the allotment, and
Yeah.
I thought when you freelance, nothing's consistent, is it? And I
No.
think one piece of advice that I could really give to people is have a hobby. Because
Hmm.
some weeks you work in 2 days and other weeks you work in 8 days in a row. And it's
Yeah.
I find that I get really quiet week or a really busy week, and you
Yeah.
need to find something to do. You can't just be walking around TK Maxx because bored shopping, so it is
Yeah.
good to find hobbies, or if you like swimming, you've got to use your time wisely, because sometimes you're off on Tuesday and Wednesday, but they're working Saturday and Sunday when all your 9 to 5 friends are. So I think having a really using your time productively is
Yeah.
really good, because it is hard to have a few quiet weeks in a row sometimes, but it is part of it. So I feel like that helps with your mental health a little bit, because you can get quite stressful when you're freelance. And when you like, I was paying for this holiday for my husband, and suddenly, just when I thought things were going good, it just went quiet for a few weeks, and then it just come back at the right time. So it's just keeping yourself proactive and busy. It's so important.
Yeah. I think we've just signed up on the allotment list here in Holmfirth because we've really missed having an allotment
Yeah,
for that for me, for that reason, like just going and having another hobby that's not
Yeah.
necessarily in the house. Because it's fine doing like cross stitch or, some of my crafting or anything like that, but that's all in the house.
Yeah.
So it's nice to get outside. And I think you're right. And also, it's not monetizing the hobbies,
No.
because self-employed people as well have this thing where they're like, I've got to constantly be productive and I've got to maybe make more money, and
Yeah.
and they're trying to make money in lots of different pots, which is fine. But I think you do have to have that break and just enjoy something for the sake of enjoying it.
Yeah. I try and do 10,000 steps every day. So when I'm not working, where we live, there's huge woods. Very lucky. Found it in lockdown, to be honest. So I just feel like you just need to get out, and I love seeing the change of like the season changes and things, and that's good because you've got the dog, so it's really good. You probably do that anyway, don't you? But I just feel like getting outside and being at one with nature, and maybe it's an age thing, but you don't want to be a lady who lunch, because you just look at people and they're like spending 30 quid every lunchtime going out with their friends, and you're just like, that's quite expensive.
Yeah, I agree with you though. I think like since we've moved here and we've got like, we only have to walk down the lane and we're in the middle of nowhere basically. I think that's really helped, especially when I had a bit of a quiet period during December. And I just took the dog for an hour. My aim was to walk for an hour with the dog every day, and I just did it, and you feel so much better. And like you say, like swimming or yoga or it's just getting outside and maybe mingling with other people that you wouldn't normally mingle with, like down the allotment. Our old allotment, we had like, well, they're all old people, but it's nice to go and mingle with different people.
Don't you love that? I just made jokes. I'm so, where else could I get friends called like, the names have gone blank now, like Jeff and Jed.
And Joan.
It's just like, I'm just like, oh, guess what Vinny said to me today? Oh, Vinny's invited us around for a barbecue. Do you want to go? It's godson's my age, like.
It's funny, isn't it? I do miss the allotment. What have you got? Have you got anything sown yet?
Well, I've just started. I've done my tomatoes, chilies, and peppers. So I started them because I was away till recently. I've got onions and garlics in already. I've had an injury this end of last year where it's been hard for me to dig, but I feel like the swimming on holidays, it's like in my hips.
Oh, yeah.
Right at the bottom of my back, and if I'd been digging, it's like sciatic kind of niggle that doesn't go away. So I found that the swimming and when I do yoga, it's really helped it. So I'm hoping that I can start digging soon. But yeah, I'm looking forward. I've only got half, but still it's quite productive. But I do love it, and you know how much I love to cook as well. And I think when you grow the veg, it's just amazing.
Oh, it tastes so much better as well. We definitely like miss the growing it, and like it just tasting so much better.
Yeah, and also sometimes just looking and thinking, right, I've got so many courgettes, what am I going to do? And you just like looking for these recipes. But I do love that. So I feel like I'm being boring talking about green fingered.
No, I like it. And like Nath actually joked with me, I've overwatered a cactus that we've had for fucking hell 5 years, and it's like I'm trying to dry it out. And he joked to me, he was like, you like to think you're green fingered, but you're not actually.
I'm an overwater of houseplants.
Yeah, I don't know why I did it. I don't know. I just must have automatically watered everything and just not skipped its turn. So yeah, I grew it from a baby, and it's like
cactuses and aloe and succulents.
Yeah,
like that you can't water them that much, and money plants.
No. Yeah.
But I'm great at
it's
vegetables.
Hard, isn't it? Yeah, that's it. I've tasted some of your vegetables and they're very nice.
Well, yeah, I do like to bring a few veg to people, especially is it like how to make a vegan happy? Here's some organic, homegrown goods.
Yeah, just bring us everything. Bring us all your veg. That's it.
Definitely,
that's what it is. I've also got on my little notes about how you like to have like a change of scenery within going into lots of different studios. And I think I'm the same as you. I like to have lots of different places where I can go, where I can see lots of different people and be like, oh, how are your kids?
Yeah.
How's your dog? What have you been up to? Blah, blah, blah. Because I think sometimes you can get stuck. As a freelancer, it's lovely to have loyal clients, but sometimes you get sucked into almost being a full-timer, like permalance.
Yeah.
And which is great, but then sometimes the politics comes with that. And that's the thing that I think personally, like, I find a bit hard to handle.
I totally agree. And I think during lockdown, being spread a little bit more thinly, like I have a lot of clients that shoot twice a year for like 2 or 3 days, like summer and spring, summer, autumn, winter. And I have clients that might use me once or twice a month. And, but there's a lot of people I know who, or there's a lot of places where like catalogue companies where I might be number 5th on the list, but the people that are number 1, 2, and 3 are like literally there like 2 or 3 days a week. And I find that sometimes I'll probably go in like 2 or 3 days a month more instead. But I've always really enjoyed that because I feel like familiarity can breed contempt a little bit. The more you're there, the more you get to realise that people aren't happy. People start bitching to you about things. And I just like to miss people, come back and go, how was your holiday? And I think you get the best out of people, but I feel like sometimes you have a bit of a short attention span, and I like being in different places and seeing people but missing them. And I feel like it's nicer, really, where that whole, is it tea break? It's 2:00. Everyone goes for tea at 2. Like you can get too drawn into the more boring side of it.
Yeah, and I think like that's almost the routine of that. When you're full time somewhere, the routine of that is quite nice because you're like, oh, okay, it's 2:00, it's tea time, everyone's going for their tea. But as a freelancer, it's like you say, it's lovely to go and miss people and then be like, oh my God, what have you been up to? How's your holiday been? I've seen your holiday on Instagram, where you been?
Yeah.
Like, and that's really nice. And I, much like you, I've got a couple of clients now who do seasonal stuff.
Yeah.
So I know that I'll maybe have 5 days with them, like you say, every 6 months, maybe, or every 4 months.
Really look forward to it.
And you really look forward to it. And then you catch up with them and then you're gone again for a little bit. And it's quite nice. It gives you a bit more of I feel like, again, it gives you a broader mix of skills as well, because you might be doing lots of different things or, definitely meeting different people. Sometimes I'm styling directly for the client. Sometimes it's via an agent. Sometimes I've got a producer and an art director in between me. So it's quite nice to deal with lots of different people.
And it gets you fresh, because I feel like sometimes the more you are places, people start. It's human nature to become a little bit more lazy, lethargic, and I like the freshness, and I love running around and being energetic and being like, tell me about this, and it does keep it a lot fresher. But like, I mean, obviously, like the place where we worked a lot, and I have got my favourite places to be with my favourite people, but then but none of them tend to be like shooting continuously. They might like, oh, need hair and makeup now, but then we might not need them again, and so there's that little bitty bit, or like certain photographers that will always use me, but they also do still life and will just call me in when they get model jobs. So it's lovely to have that loyalty, but then not to have that clinginess, because I feel like the clinginess sometimes, it's when it goes wrong a little bit, is when you're in somewhere all the time and you get over familiar, and then like you get the negative side of people, and then people annoy you or whatever. It can lead to, you have to be careful with that, really.
Yeah, I think it's a delicate balance, to be honest, because like you say, the loyalty is lovely. But also you can, like you say, then you see sometimes the negative side of people. Whereas if you're not in there quite as often, you see people like on a general day-to-day kind of undulation, but not quite so as extreme as if you're there all the time.
Exactly. And when you freelance, things change, people leave. So you can be at a place, and it's happened to me so many times, I've been there, really regular, people really like me, and then a person leaves, the other person comes in, and they start using their teams. And you have to be
Yeah.
respectful because at the end of the day, people are in teams, people click with different people, certain people have got different personalities, and you have to
Yeah.
respect the fact that it can change. But I think when you're in a good cycle with good people, and you've got to have a lot of gratitude, but you
Yeah.
know, you can't take it for granted. I think if you've just got one client, like my friends who work more for one client than anyone else, when COVID hit, some of them there's one of them companies that I'm just starting to work back at a little bit more, but they were so cautious. They were like headless for like a good year after when everyone else was being cautious. So like a lot of people had to rechange, and so I think it is good to just be spread slightly more thinner, or it's good for me, because I always feel like
Yeah.
if something changes and somebody leaves, I've not lost all my work overnight.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And I think that's the thing as well. It takes a little bit more admin to have a few more clients,
Mm,
but it means that if you lose a client or your client only does one job every quarter,
yeah,
you're not so worried about them only being every quarter. Do you know what I mean? So that
yeah,
like they're kind of you kind of it forces you then to go and push yourself out into the world as well
yeah,
and be like, hey, I'm here if you need me. And it's good to be in with these teams of people as well, like you say, that you really enjoy working with, and getting in with, because then when people move, you're the first one they call.
yeah. I mean, it's sometimes like you tend to find that everybody wants you on the same day, or
Yeah.
there is problems with having more thinly spread. Everyone's like, "Oh, what are you doing next Tuesday?" And I'm like, "I'm working. I could have worked 5 times on the Tuesday, but everybody wants you on the Tuesday, but you're not working any other day the rest of the week." And you're just like, "Ugh."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I feel like the universe can be kind. I feel like if a lot of the time it just slots into place, and a lot of the time people respect the fact that I'm options and I've chased,
Yeah.
and and sometimes it's not always good to be available, and to be part of a pool that people use, but
Yeah.
you have to find your way, really, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. How do you handle being optioned? Because I sometimes struggle with it, especially when I get busier. I find that admin side sometimes can be a little bit distracting.
I don't mind being options.
Hmm.
I don't like it when people get annoyed with me when I chase an option,
Yeah.
especially when some clients will book you for like 2 weeks and it's a 1 day job.
Yeah.
And as it gets closer, when you say, "Oh, I've got another client who wants to know when I'm available. Can we narrow it down a little bit, or is it still available?" And they're like, it's really frustrating when people either get funny with you or when they just cancel it and they forgot to tell you. So that I feel like I like to smiley nag.
Yeah. Yeah.
I never go, "Hi, I'm like, how are you?" And I'd never be like, "Hey, have you got any work this week?" I would always just be like, "Hey, how are you? How did that go?" Or because I always feel like people
Yeah.
know exactly. So I feel like with people, you don't want to be aggressive, or you've got to work how to play people, because it is difficult when you're like, right, I've got another option. You've got to be friendly, but also there's got to be like, you're running a business and they're running a business. So
Yeah.
sometimes
Yeah.
that balance can be difficult, but mostly I feel like you've got to keep that friendliness, but also the respect side of it. Not mess them around. I've missed out on a 2 day job sometimes because a 1 day job's confirmed, but I always feel it's better to do
Yeah.
things right than just drop people because that's £50 more a day, or because sometimes it's not always the bigger
Yeah.
picture, is it?
No, sometimes it's not the 50 quid on that day that you're getting paid more. It's the fact that you might get more work consistently from that other client.
Exactly. You never know. And I think if people see
Yeah.
you as like, "Oh, they just dropped me," then I think that never bodes well for people trusting you in the future if you're just willing to drop somebody like that. So I don't know. You've got to run it the way you feel right, but that balance, it does take a bit. But I enjoy that side of it as well. I think I used to have an agent and now I don't, but I think the OCD list maker, I actually enjoy the emails. I enjoy running my diary. I enjoy the invoicing, and I feel like when I am quiet, running the office side of things, I really enjoy that.
Yeah.
Rather than phoning someone up saying, have you invoiced yet? Or did you get this call sheet? It's quite nice. I go, I'll just send the email now. I mean, obviously there's things that I miss about, there's always good and bads, isn't there? But I feel like the OCD list maker inside, I think that keeps me calm, having more, I'll just do my little email now.
Yeah. I definitely section out my work a lot more. I think I've said before on previous episodes, but I've put boundaries in since COVID and since my last operation and things. And I don't really answer stuff after 6 o'clock in the evening. And, I don't really answer emails on the weekend. Try not to email people on the weekend as well, with invoices and things. But I just find the option difficult because in my head, I go into a job, I'll be in the studio and be like, right, I'm on this job today. And then someone goes, oh, that option, or can a second option, and it just gets a bit complex for me. And I think I'm trying to balance it so that I'm the same as you, nicely chasing, is this option confirmed or, dropped? Because I don't mind either way, as long as I've got enough notice to fill the day in.
Yeah.
But I did have, I think it was, the year after COVID, maybe. I had someone option me for the whole week and only book me for one day, and I missed out on a whole week's job.
Yeah, it's really
from somewhere else. And I just said in the end, it was during my busy period as well, where I could have split myself in 4 and still not had enough hands to do all the work. So in the end, I just said, if people want me, it's first come, first served kind of thing. But I do think there's a little bit of leeway within that. I think
sometimes I've gone to clients when that's happened and I've just gone, look, 3 days, it's a TV advert, it's full rate. Because obviously we e-com and advertising and TV, there's different rates. So some of my clients, I know that I can say, you know what, that one day you want me for, I could actually work 3 days that week, and it's and they'll go, look, just cover yourself, So it's nice sometimes, I think if you're good to people, they'll go back to you.
Yeah,
I'd
for
like
sure.
to believe.
Yeah, I think we wear so many different hats, though, don't we, when we're freelance? You're organising your work, social media, you're organising your admin, you're organising booking your days, you're organising your accounts and everything else, your website, and it can get sometimes overwhelming. But I think if you organise it right, like you say, with your lists and things, I think it's easily attainable, but it is just figuring out what's best for you, isn't it?
And there are a lot of people that have got all these apps and are like, if you're going to do invoicing, you do this and you pay this money and you find your way, don't you? But I think, I think you have to be organised there. Because I also know people that sometimes are invoicing a month after the job because they forgot. And when you just think to yourself, well, number one, that money is there to be spent then, and if they think that's spent and then suddenly they need to find, that's going to have to come out of another pot. So I think being organised but I'm a bit too organised sometimes. You've seen that my makeup kit is always laid out exactly the same, and it bothers me if there's not enough space for me to, I like a routine.
Yeah I think I'm the same, though. I like a routine, but then I'm trying to relax into rest, also being productive, and making sure I'm taking time out from work as well.
That's why it's good when you are off, is that you do relaxation, you have hobbies, you have things to watch, and it's really important that you nurture, you've got something to do the spiritual side, and it's important to really look after yourself, because it is stressful. It's stressful when I think you can get highly strung if the phone doesn't go, and I feel but the more you do it, the more you realise that the phone will go again. But at some points,
Yeah.
when you're just about to nod off, you're like, oh, that's it.
Yeah. I must have that every bloody January where I'm like laid in bed thinking,
Yeah.
oh, fuck. I really must have like stank on that shoot, or like, oh, I must have been really bad on that. And like, no one's calling me. And then Naif's like, it's January, hun.
And you're thinking
January's
it's
always
always the one
quiet.
thing. It's like, well, I tripped over that, and then I forgot to put the sugar in a tea. That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
not booking me
Yeah. Yeah.
anymore. And it's like something like really stupid.
Yeah. 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 And you're laid there like, oh. And then you text your mates and everybody's quiet and they're all having the same panic dream on like the same night.
Exactly. I feel like sometimes when you're a freelancer, I feel like it's good to have friends that are freelancers as well. But then I also feel like sometimes it's good to keep, like, I think with social media, I don't want to be sticking everything I'm working on with everybody, everything I'm doing, and because sometimes you kind of want to be a bit private about who you work for, but then and protect it. But then at the same time, you want to kind of go, "Hey, this is actually really nice," you know. So there is a
Yeah.
fine line where I think you can be too much on. So I mean, I'm not. I think you've got to be a bit careful overspreading yourself on social media because you've got to protect your business as well. And if you are like, "Hey, just worked with this art director," there's a lot of. I mean, I'm not sure if it happens as much now. So this is why I probably don't post as much on social media, but you do get people who are just like, oh, I'm going to give that studio a go. They're there all the time. So, you've got to, there's a fine balance, isn't there, between like, hey, this is what I've done, but not like, hey, everyone, they've got
Yeah.
loads of work, phone them. It's kind of, people have got to
Yeah.
find their own way, haven't they? And
Yeah. I think that's it. Like, I've got my handful of stylists that I'll ring if I can't
yeah,
do a job, or I'll pass on, that I know that they're not going to pinch loads of work from me.
yeah,
They're going to be good at, or the same standard as me, with, say, mannequin or pin-up or whatever I'm doing, interiors or whatever. And I think it's that fine balance. Like, you find the people that you would happily pass their details on, but also then on social media, it's posting some fun stuff that you're doing,
yeah.
but not every single detail, because I think there is people out there who will poach clients, because some people are ruthless like that.
Well, I think when you're a
There,
freelancer,
there
it's
is.
hand to mouth, isn't it? You have good months and you
Yeah.
have bad months,
Yeah.
and you understand. But I think, if you're a friend of somebody who's put you on a job, there's an etiquette
Yeah.
as well, isn't there? Where it's a bit like, I remember a client once was like, "Oh, you're really good," and I was like, "Oh, thank you." Well, next time this person isn't available, I'd love to work for you
Yeah.
again. So it's a case of not being like, "Hey, this is my business card," but
Yeah.
you've got to work out, haven't you, your etiquette really, and stand by it. And if it bites you in the bum, and you're like, actually, you've got to stand there, but you can't be over trusting as well. I think it's a fine balance.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think like it's hard in these social media times, because a lot of our jobs, like a lot of my work recently has been word of mouth,
Yeah,
or
that's the
somebody's
best.
found me on my, 100%. But I mean, I've had a couple of people find me on my Instagram, my work Instagram, and there's not much on my work Instagram. It's just a sprinkling of what I've done over the years, I guess.
Well, everything's
And
embargoed,
that's
isn't
nice.
it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can't use it until it goes out. You're like, okay,
Yeah.
3
Oh,
months
that
later.
frustrates me. Yeah. Because then I can't remember what I've bloody done anyway.
Exactly. A great tip.
But
always join the mailing list of the company.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Because then they email you like once or twice a week saying, hey, this is the new jumper. And you're like, oh, that's my work. Thank you. I'll go on the website.
Oh, that's a really good idea.
Get it.
Yeah, that's a fantastic idea, that. Oh, that's lush. I'm going to do that. But yeah, it is difficult. Like, I've been sharing some stuff that I've been doing for a card company recently, and then somebody dropped me a message and was like, "Oh, I did another shoot for them." Blah blah blah. We ended up chatting for ages.
Yeah.
But we didn't really realize that both of us were working on separate shoots for the same company at like similar-ish times. And I think it's nice because it connects you. like that. But also, you do have to be careful of people pinching clients,
Well, you do.
you know,
You've got to
because it's
find
on
your
social
crew, haven't you?
media.
Of people that you can trust
Yeah,
and trust you. But you
yeah,
don't want to be like, hey, guess what? You know.
yeah. And also, like, it's a lot to keep up with. If I was doing, I don't know, a reel a week of with that week's music on it and like what I've been
Mm.
doing in my week or what have you, I find like that's a lot to maintain alongside, you know, going to work, sorting the dog out, you know, doing chores,
Yeah.
whatever. It's to me, it's another job that I don't get that much work from to put in so much time into it.
I had some assistants recently, and they literally spent the whole day like this.
Oh, with the phone. Oh,
One of the clients was like, and I think it was a bit like, you can't take a picture of that until it comes out, and they're like, I promise I won't put it anywhere, and you're just like on the Snapchat going, oh.
yeah. Or on that TikTok.
Yeah, and I think there's an etiquette, isn't there? But I think we're old enough to not have always had phones like they do today. But I feel like to some extent, like it's a bit like, I've got to show everyone everything I'm doing, and like I think a lot of assistants now don't actually watch you do makeup; they just take pictures of the door
Yeah.
and bits. But I think that has changed, like, hasn't it? Have you noticed now that nobody wants to just be a chef or a makeup artist? It's a celebrity makeup artist. Where I always felt like, I've worked with quite a lot of celebrities, but I always feel like that was a byproduct of being a good makeup artist.
Yes.
Or a good chef or a good stylist. But I feel like now it's like, hey, but I think it's that whole Andy Warhol kind of thing, isn't it? Where everyone expects 5 minutes of fame or something. So it's, and that connection. Yeah. So it's quite funny because I always used to laugh when it's like, I'm going to be a celebrity makeup artist when I'm older. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
But I think that's social media. I think everyone's a bit like...
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's just, I think personally that social media is going to die off. I think there's, especially looking at, let's say, the likes of my cousin who's about 18, they're not on it as much. They want to see the real you, not the Instagram filtered you or the angry Facebook you or whatever. And I think it will come full circle almost where they become super private and it'll just, filter down. You know how, like, for me, like, my mum and dad's and their mates are a lot on Facebook.
Yeah.
We're on Instagram a lot. And then my
kids are on Snapchat.
Other friends are on Snapchat or like TikTok, or then this Be Real. I don't even know what that is, but I think my cousin said to me about it. And I think there's lots of that you can kind of see the age gap of who's on what.
Yeah.
Like my grandma loves Facebook and my mum and dad's mates love Facebook. And
as soon as they join it, all the kids are like, oh, I'm not using that anymore.
Yeah. So like when all us millennials joined TikTok, all the youngsters were like, nah, we're out of it because we're like old to them.
I can't watch TikTok, because the way it tracks you. And I think Instagram's got a bit more like that. But the way that, like, if you watch one thing, it will just keep sending you similar. So when I joined TikTok, it was during the pandemic. And it was when that and there was like lots of pictures of teenage, like, like kind of like it was. And all I got was that. And I just thought, I'm at an age now where I just don't want these 18-year-old guys in.
Oh,
and I just
like dancing.
Just thought like kept sending me more, and I was just like, stop sending me this. So in the end, I just felt like I just thought I look like a perv just looking at these like 18-year-old. Like, but it was just because if you watch one, they just send you more and more. So in the end, I just came off it, and I went, no, it was that I'm like gymnastics doing backflips. So that's all I ever got, and people like free diving. So I was like, no, I'm not doing that anymore. But then I think Instagram's getting more like that now. It's definitely starting to do that trend where it's definitely following you a little bit more and sending you more stuff like that. I've noticed. And if you get if you watch an advert on Facebook, or suddenly that advert will be coming through on your Instagram as well, and it's definitely getting a lot more focused.
Yeah, and like I remember Instagram just being pictures, and it was like a lot of what you're eating or whatever. But I do think it's a useful tool as a shortcut to your portfolio for me, for sure.
Yeah.
People go, "What's your Instagram?" They can see a highlight reel of my portfolio, basically. But I agree with you. There's a lot of reels, and there's a lot of this kind of secret advertising, a bit like you're being advertised to, but you don't realize it. Like with Rihanna at the Super Bowl halftime, where she just got her Fenty makeup out and just patted her nose with it. And apparently it, I don't know whether it's sales like tripled or something since people watched it. But it's that like consistently being advertised to, I'm getting quite bored of.
I mean, I don't mind Rihanna doing that because you don't get paid to do the half. I mean, you literally do it for it's free, isn't it? So from that point of view, I think, well, if you can't powder your own nose and push it a little bit, then why do?
I mean, it's very clever, but
but I think there's a lot less subtler versions, a lot more subtler versions of that. But it did make me laugh. But
I've not. I was going to say I've not fully watched it, but I've watched like clips of it, and I just thought it's this, the subtle way of being sold stuff. I think I don't really need more shit in my house.
I mean, I think I'm trying to declutter.
Same. It'll be me trying to subtly sell to other people soon.
I know. Do you want this? Got it in a charity shop.
That's it. But yeah, I don't know also if that's like an age thing where, like we were saying earlier, when you become very sure of yourself and you know who you are, and then you just kind of can see through stuff quite easily as well.
But you see kids now and they're walking around in, I mean, I'm sure we did the same thing to an extent, but to the level, I think high luxury's got more expensive. So I think design a pair of shoes is not 150 quid anymore. It's like £1,000 or something. I think a designer aftershave now, a good one is like £200, where you used to get a designer aftershave for like 80 quid years ago, for the 100 mil. Yeah. So I feel like there's a lot of kids walking around in the bag and the shoe and the thing, and you just think, are you ever going to get on the house? And like if you just got a credit card full of this and BMW on lease, and I feel like it's a bit superficial in a way, but maybe when we were young, we were just spending all our money on, I don't know, going out.
Yeah, mate.
Because they don't drink a lot, the younger generation anymore, do they?
No, that's true. That's
we were
very
all like
true.
Getting tanked up and dancing all night.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Like, I'm not sure if a lot of the younger generation are actually that bothered about getting on the housing market.
Maybe
I don't know. I don't know if they're happier renting and then they can migrate wherever they want. I don't know. I don't know. That's maybe something I need to ask my younger cousins.
Well, I feel like there's more pressure to have that, because of the advertising, and have that, like, there's certain brands, isn't there, where suddenly, what's that? Everyone's got that. There's the high designer things.
Yeah.
And, and you're just thinking, that's like a £450, like, Balenciaga hoodie or something, and you're just like,
Yeah.
It's a lot of money.
And also, I think you can definitely tell when people are rich because they're not flaunting it with all this designer gear. They're like, their money's not in showing people they're rich. Their money's either in their bank account or in other properties or businesses, or invested in different places.
Well, you don't really get rich if you spend your money too much, do you? So sometimes a lot of my friends who are a little more on the wealthy side, their dad will drive like a 20-year-old BMW, like a Volkswagen that they've had, and they've got wealth, but it's kind of, they're not just going to go, hey, I'm going to get this brand new thing, this Maserati. Yeah. They're just going to, unless you're in the super rich thing, but being clever with money is something you learn with being freelance.
Yeah. We were saying, my family was saying today, my sister's managed to get her contents insurance 75% cheaper than what it normally was,
Wow.
than was previously. And she was like, oh, I'm like my father's daughter because my dad is so careful with his money. And I said, well, my mum said, oh, it's the family motto, isn't it, to be careful with your money? And I was like, well, I'm not as careful as the rest of you. I'm a little bit more frivolous.
See, my hubby's like, oh, he's such a saver. And he's like, oh, you go, and I'm just like, I go to charity shops and I go to B&M and I go to TK Maxx. You know, like I'm not exactly walking around Selfridges just going, oh, I'll just buy myself this thing. You know, like I'm quite frugal, and if I fritter it, it's on like some £2 that should have been £8 or whatever. You know, I like a bargain. I'm definitely my mother's son.
Yeah, I think I've definitely, as I've gotten older, I'm more, like we were saying, I'm more buying, like getting a couple of dresses off Vinted for 20 quid. Like that's my frivolous money rather than being like, fuck it, I need to spend like 400 quid on a bag or whatever, you know. So do you think that's an age thing as well, I think?
Well, my hubby, for Christmas, he bought me a new wardrobe for Thailand.
Oh,
all
nice.
Off Vinted.
Amazing.
Yeah, so like I got 5 things to wear to Thailand. The only thing is, I'm that really awkward. I'm like somewhere between a medium and a large.
Yeah.
And he always buys me medium. But if it's a skinny fit medium, I'm probably more of a large. And depending on the brand as well. So like 3 of the things that I really, really liked, just I looked a bit like Davith, you know, the only gay in the village. Like so I was a bit like, he's like, they're not that tight, and I'm like, I've got cleavage. I think it's tight.
That is that point where you just have it undone and just let the wind take the corner of it.
I got some nice things. It was really frustrating actually getting things that didn't fit and you couldn't take back and swap for the bigger size. So yeah. But we'll go back on Vinted. It's all good fun, isn't it?
Yeah, I do like Vinted. It is good. Oh, well, I tell you what, Rich, it's been so lovely chatting to you today.
It has, and we've you're gonna have to edit this to get it down to an hour. Good luck with that.
Nah, I'll leave it all in. Sod it. It'll be a good hour and 45 probably. So that'll be nice.
Jeez Louise.
Be nice for people. Yeah. I think, do you know what? I like listening to longer podcasts because, you know, like on the way to work, it's quite nice to listen to people chatting where it's not like the radio where there's like news and stuff in between. And
I love that girl. Well, I've liked a lot of the people that you've had on, but I liked Joe.
Joe, yeah.
Joe. And the girl before, like the one that you've just done that's went up today.
Emily.
Like, I drove all the way to my brother's and drove all the way back listening to it, and I was giggling. I was just thinking, God, I love her. She's really cool. So, hopefully people will be like, oh, switch him off. He's starting to break.
Well, I find it hilarious that people are happy to listen to me and not fed up of my voice yet. So
I'm proud of you. You know, you just.
Oh, like, thanks, Rich.
It's very natural. Like I listen to a lot of podcasts, and the first couple you're always like, and then they get into it. But I felt like the flow. I mean, the one thing I would say is that you need a swear jar. And I
do. Yeah.
I never realised how much you swore actually.
Yeah. My mum said to me after listening to, I think, the first episode, I speak to her once a week, and she just went, yeah, I counted 3 fucks.
It made me laugh. So I was like, yeah. I don't think I've sworn yet, have I?
No, I don't think you have.
No, but maybe I've got this thing, you know, coming from a religious family. You know, like when you can swear, you swear. When you don't swear, like when I'm on kids shoot, my head just goes into this place. So I think because I'm going to be on a podcast, I've turned all lady muck.
Yeah, you see, and I'm from farmer/building roots, so that's where all my swearing comes from.
Nice.
Although my dad won't admit it, but he swears a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's from him.
Was he a builder?
Yeah.
I think my brother's a builder, and they swear so much that they don't realise they swear, where I prefer to swear for humour or hilarity. You know, like when you make a point or when I'm annoyed, but I wouldn't like to be the person who F's and Jeffs but doesn't really realise that they do. So that's what I've always tried to do.
Yeah. I think I'm somewhere in between.
I think you are. Well, I would have made a lot of money on that swear jar.
Yeah, you would have done, yeah.
Well,
at least 20 quid, I think.
Maybe it's my
thanks.
example.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
I'm just...
On that lovely note, it's been so lovely to have you on, and it has been so interesting to hear about your career as well. So thank you so much for being on.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed being a part of it.
Fantastic. See you later.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Please rate, follow and share, as it really helps this little podcast out. And if you have found value in the podcast and you have the means to, I do have a Buy Me a Coffee link in the show notes. This will help keep the podcast going. Join me next week for another fantastic guest. Bye!